Yeah. Can you see my slides?
Yes po, Doc.
Okay. So the impact of illness on the family. At the end of the session, we should be able to understand the importance of knowing about the impact of illness on the individual patient and the family. And you should be able to analyze and manage the changing dynamics and address psychosocial issues of individuals and families dealing with illness. Okay? And the two frameworks that can help you understand how illness impacts the family are your family illness trajectory and your psychosocial typology of illness. So for this afternoon, we will be discussing the family illness trajectory. Okay, and here you should be able to enumerate the different stages, describe the characteristic of each stage, know or discuss the responsibilities of physicians, you as physicians in each stage, and understand its use in developing plans of interventions to mobilize the family and to support the patient, okay, so that the burden brought about by illness is lessened. So, like I said, one of the things that could help you understand families and patients and families going through illness is to look into the family illness trajectory. So, why do we need to study the impact of illness on patients and their families? Okay, so, to fully understand a patient's suffering and to be able to adequately respond to it, physicians must address simultaneously the physical problems or the biomedical problems brought about by a disease and the psychological and social impact of that disease or the illness to the patient and the family. Okay, so this practice was introduced to you in your first year as the biopsychosocial approach to care. Okay, so it is holistic care that looks into not just the biomedical problem, but looks into psychological, social, and even spiritual challenges related to having a disease. And the biopsychosocial approach is not limited to just the individual patient, but extends to looking into how illnesses impact the family as well. Okay, so by looking at all these dimensions of care, patient and family suffering is better understood and better managed. It is important to look into the impact of illness because, as most of you can probably attest to firsthand, having an illness can be stressful. And having an ill family member can affect other members of the family or even the whole family or the family as a whole. So let us take this present COVID pandemic that we are in as an example. Okay, so COVID-19 is not just a biomedical disease that a person gets infected with. Having COVID comes with emotional, psychosocial, and even spiritual distress. So a person who suddenly develops flu-like symptoms can become very anxious. They can fear the worst. They might not automatically, bigla ka nag-fever, nag-cough, you would think, is this COVID? Okay, and if once you consider the fact that this might be COVID, um, you fear the worst, or you become anxious because, di ba, once upon a time, especially during the first few months of the pandemic, even the healthy ones would develop severe COVID and die. So kung ikaw ay pasyente na may hypertension or you're a patient who is diabetic, then you learn that you have COVID. So that's additional anxiety kasi the strong ones nga get the strong ones can die. So what about me? What if I'm immunocompromised? And what are my chances of survival? Okay, so experiences from other people That experience before, di ba, na no, during the Delta variant when a lot of patients no had to be accommodated in hospitals, and there were those no who couldn't be accommodated, so they suffered at home, no, and worse, sabay-sabay silang may sakit, and ang dami, sunod-sunod silang hindi nakasurvive sa COVID. So those experiences, no, of course, and until now, especially now, no, that we are hearing about the possibility of another surge. Okay, so that would instill fear, anxiety. Okay, and it's not only you, diba? Every time, no, you have flu-like symptoms, you think of, where do I go? How do I go home? Diba? Where should I stay? No, I don't want to infect my family members. No, I don't want to infect my elderly parents. Laging may mga ganyang concerns. So, the emotional distress, no, of having an illness. Okay? So, ganun din, no, with other illnesses. So, again, depending on your experiences, no, the impact would be different from other people. Okay? So, existential issues, no, can arise also. Diba? Bakit lagi na lang kami? So, nagkasakit na sila, they lost a family member, tas meron na naman. Is it always us? Diba? So, things like that, no, they all come from having that virus na supposedly, diba, self-limiting. But it really changed how we see illness and how we manage, these symptoms, and how we treat each other when we have these symptoms, and the fear and anxiety that comes with these symptoms. So it's not always just medical. So it's not always just the disease, but there's always something that comes with it. Okay, so there's stress, there's illness, and there's distress, because of other members of the family. Okay, so this isn't something new. No? In fact, it has been studied a lot in the past, and one study in particular, the impact of stress, illness, and the family, and how they are linked, was studied by a sociologist. He's also a doctor, si George Engel. So he looked into the impact of illness and discovered a connection between stress, family, and illness. Okay, so in his study, he saw that stress is frequently followed by illness. So one who is very stressed or is always stressed, can develop illness. Okay. So he also discovered that family support protects from stress. So the stronger, the family support, the more functional a family, the less stress. The less stress, the less illness. Kasi sabi nga, stress, is followed by illness. So illness can affect the family. So I already gave you an example of that. Okay, so if one member is sick, usually, other members of the family also get affected. Okay, and family also has an impact on illness. So there are some family problems or family dysfunctions that can actually add to illness. So later on, when we discuss dysfunctional families and we discuss domestic violence, you will appreciate better how family can be the actual source or cause of illness. Okay, so a stressed family member, maybe because she is taking care of another ill family member, can fall ill as well. Okay, which is why it's important also to support these family caregivers, these family members, okay, who and they should all be able to come together and all help each other out in caring for ill individual members. Okay, so the connection of the three is especially true for Filipino families who believe in strong family ties. So we take care of our own family members, and we rely on family, especially when we are ill. Okay, so to lessen the impact of illness and even to prevent other family members from getting ill as well, or from getting affected by the illness, it is important to address any form of stress. it is important to engage the family and to help them, to help them support each other, especially in stressful situations. It is important to identify what is adding to the stress of the family, or whether the family itself, that adds to the stress and is causing the illness in one of the members. Okay, so related na silang tatlo. So assessing the impact of illness can help you as physicians, help families, help patients, and help families through stressful illness experiences. So if you are able to help the family, you will help them cope and adapt to changes and challenges that they are currently facing or will be facing connected to an illness. And how do you do that? By keeping them well informed, by helping them understand the illness, by helping them plan and anticipate problems, and helping them through burdensome situations and ensuring them that they are not the additional cause of distress for the patient. That's how you help these patients and families through the illness experience. Okay, so if more beneficial than harmful, you mobilize the family so that they are better able to support the patient and support each other, preventing the possibility of additional strain and burden brought about by any disease. Okay, so you have to know how to manage a patient's illness, not just the disease. Okay, so you have to be able to provide biopsychosocial care, not just biomedical care. Okay, so talking about disease and illness, is there a difference when you say disease and when you say illness? Okay, so when do you use one or the other, or are they just the same? Okay, so when we talk of disease, we are referring to the primary biologic, physiologic disorder that takes place in a person's body. Okay, and when we investigate disease, we look into clinical and laboratory evidence, and we come up with a diagnosis and a treatment plan. So ganun lang. So is that all it takes not to be a doctor? Okay, so just to know the symptoms, just to know the illness, just to know what to look at, okay, and then just come up with a diagnosis and treatment plan. Okay. Is that all that that you have to do? When we talk of illness, on the other hand, we do not focus merely on the physiologic disorder that takes place in a person's body. But to understand illness, you look into the patient and family's explanatory models and look into their experiences, how the disease, or having the illness is, how it affects them, the context of the disease to their social and cultural realities. Okay, so when investigating illness, you explore the meaning of illness to the patient and the family. You look into the other dimensions of care. So not just the disease itself, not just the physiologic problem, but the other aspects that can contribute to the illness. Okay, so it's simply, it's either just treating the illness or making sure that the patient can actually cope and can actually survive the illness, parang gano'n, can surpass the illness. Okay. So an example here is, when treating a patient with allergies, kunyari, so one example. So, you know that the patient has urticaria, so she has these allergic rashes, and you know that it's itchy, you know that the treatment is antihistamines and maybe a topical cream. Okay, so madali lang siya. Nakita mo, urticaria, tapos nakakita ka na ng ganun dati, tapos pina-CBC mo siya just to make sure, and you did see that there is elevated eosinophils. So definitely this is just allergic dermatitis. So you just give the patient a prescription for, gusto mo yung best brand, so levocetirizine, to be taken once a day, and this topical cream that's branded also. So, para siguradong mawala yon, mawala yung rashes niya. Okay, so yon, that's being a biomedical doctor and treating the disease. Okay, so good doctor kasi na-identify mo yung problem, na-manage mo yung sakit. Okay, but if you want to be an excellent physician, you go further. You look into the possible triggers. Saan ba nakatira tong pasyenteng to? Okay? Will this be a recurrent problem, based on, what does the patient do? So this patient pala is a factory worker. Okay? So this factory worker, you identified that she's allergic pala to one of the fabrics that they are using. Okay? And because she's a factory worker, she won't be able to purchase that top of the line antihistamine and that top of the line branded cream. Okay? So, you direct her now. So, baka meron sa health center ninyo. Because sometimes health centers have stocks of these types of medications. Okay? So, you took into consideration her psychosocial situation. You looked into how to advise her better. So, hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin, magpalit ka na ng trabaho. Easier said than done. So, you help her through. So, we know that you're allergic to the fabric. So, baka pwede ka magpalipat na lang ng position, ng place, in the, stay in the factory, but maybe, do something else. Not, wag ka na dun sa mga fabric na yan because it's the one causing your illness. Okay? And looking into her psychosocial capacity. So magkano ba yung kita in one day? So as I know it's extra expense for you, pero kasi pag hindi mo ininom yung gamot na yan, magkakaroon ng pwedeng magkaroon ng other complications because of that. Okay? Or dahil alam mo nga medyo limited yung funds niya, hindi mo na ipipilit na magpa-allergy test pa siya. Things like that, skin test to identify. Because naman that she won't be able to afford it. So that's the difference between treating a disease and treating a patient's illness. Okay? So if you want to be an excellent physician, you should look into the illness and not just treat the disease. Okay? Yeah. So 2 frameworks that can be used to explore the psychosocial aspects of a disease and also the impact of illness on the patient and the family are your family illness trajectory and psychosocial typology of illness. So psychosocial typology we will discuss next week. Okay, so these will help you identify. Kasi patients, of course, what they know when they come to us is to present their medical problems, the biomedical problems. But it's up to you to check also the psychosocial aspect. It's better to again look into the illness and not just treat the disease. Okay, so these are like guides for you. So the family illness trajectory will show you the normal course of the psychosocial aspects of disease for the patient and the family. So it has 4 stages, and each stage will describe the usual or expected occurrences that may help explain the patient and family's response to an illness. So being aware of the stage where the patient and family are in the family illness trajectory at the time of interaction or consult with you will allow you to understand, predict, anticipate, and deal with their response to the illness. So it's like a guide, I mentioned, for us to know how to deal with the patient and family. So depending on what stage they are in during that consult is how we must proceed with our approach to their care. It gives us an idea what to look into while we are managing them or while we are during that encounter with them. Okay, so if you know where they are in the illness trajectory at that present time, then you will be able to formulate more appropriate therapeutic plans or therapeutic interventions. And at the same time, support the patient and the family. So not just through the biomedical problem, but throughout the illness experience. Okay, so you would be able to treat the illness and treat the patient holistically. So your family illness trajectory has 4 stages: stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your first stage is onset of illness. Second stage is impact phase or reaction to diagnosis. Your third stage is major therapeutic efforts, and your fourth stage is adjustment to the outcome of disease. Other references would have a fifth stage. Okay? And the fifth stage is only it just divides the fourth stage into early adjustment and adjustment to the permanency of the outcome of disease. Okay, but for our course, we will stick to the 4 stages only. Okay, so each stage, no, so patients and families go through all the stages. Okay, but they go through the stages at different times, no, different ways. Okay, pero definitely, they go through stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so depende sa situation, depende sa sakit, yung transition nila from stage 1 to 4. And depende sa doktor, no? Yung how they deal with the different stages. Okay, so we'll start with stage 1. So stage 1, the onset of illness. So this is actually the stage prior to contact with medical care providers. Okay, so here, health beliefs and previous experiences shape what patients and their families do and how they react to a certain illness. Okay, so this is the time where you see self-medication practices, where you get to know their health-seeking behaviors. Who do they consult first? Why do they wait so long before going to the doctor? Why do they fear going to doctors and hospitals in the first place? So why are they behaving a certain way now? Okay, so stage 1 will give you an idea why they behave a certain way. Okay, so bakit nga ba? So why do we behave a certain way when it comes to illnesses? Okay, so our beliefs shape how we, our beliefs, our experiences shape how we act also or behave when it comes to illnesses or when it comes to symptoms. Okay, so our personal knowledge, our experiences usually dictate how we respond to symptoms and to illnesses in general. So this is also why patients that we encounter behave a certain way. So you have patients and families who are quick to panic and tend to rush to the hospital at the onset of the simplest symptom. Because the last time that they did not do this, they were scolded by the doctor for not acting fast enough. Tapos the second time around, sasabihin naman, grabe naman kayo, ang OA nyo naman, nandito kayo kaagad, kakalagnat lang. Okay, so bakit nga ba ganun? Kasi last time, nung hindi kaagad dinala, pinagalitan din siya. Kayo naman kasi, nilalagnat na yung anak ninyo, hindi nyo pa dinala dito. So sometimes, especially when they have poor knowledge or poor understanding of what's happening to them, or what's happening to their family members, you expect that they don't really know how to behave. But definitely, they have formed behaviors. Like kayo, pag sumasakit yung ulo ninyo, anong ginagawa niyo? What do you do when you develop a headache?
Umiinom ng paracetamol po.
Okay, so bakit? Bakit yun ang una mong ginagawa? Why do you take paracetamol when your head hurts? Nakalimutan mo kung bakit.
Ito po yung practice din po kasi naituro din.
Yun yung tinuro sa'yo. Nino?
Parents po.
Parents. Ayun, di ba? So, akala ko dahil kay John Lloyd Cruz at yung kanyang commercial ng Biogesic. So, pero ganoon din yung iba, di ba? So, doon nila nalalaman din na, pwede pala yun take. Okay, so most of the time, we develop our behavior or how we seek consults, how we when we self-medicate, we get it from the family also. So yon, sabi nung nagkaroon ka ng headache, sabi ng mom mo, inom ka nito. And then it worked. And then from then on, every time you would develop a headache, you would take paracetamol. Okay, so that's how things go, no, during stage 1. Okay, so what they know, their experiences, their knowledge on things would dictate how they would act or how they would behave. Okay. Besides experiences and learned behaviors, the nature of an illness is also an important factor na to look into during stage 1 or during the onset of illness. Okay, so kanina sabi natin, ano ba yung mga practices nila? What are the learned behaviors? Why do they act the way they do? Where do they get these practices? But you also need to look into the nature of onset. So why do they behave a certain way, or what is the impact of the nature of onset on how patients and families deal with a certain symptom or illness. Okay, so reactions, perceptions, and experiences would expectedly be different when symptoms or when you are dealing with an acute onset symptom or an acute illness from that of a chronic symptom or a chronic illness. Okay, so the impact on the patient and family will be different when the onset is acute. For example, you have a sudden onset chest pain from that of a recurrent chest pain. Right? So yung sudden onset first time, mas panicky, mas takot yung patient and yung family members. But if that patient has already na-experience na before yung chest pain, tapos nawala naman. Tapos through the weeks, through the months, they would experience the same chest pain, but because it would disappear on its own, or would spontaneously resolve, they don't really think much about it, and they become less anxious through time until that severe chest pain again that would be nakita na nung family member na halos mag-collapse na yung patient because of that chest pain. Then again, they become anxious. Okay, so an event that is acute, sudden, and clear gives parang, how do you say that? An event that is acute, sudden, and clear is different from an event that is sudden, rapid, and unclear. Compared again to an event that is chronic or gradual in onset. Okay, so for example, sudden death from a collision between a motorcycle and a truck. Okay, so that's rapid, biglaan, nobody expected that, and very clear. So what was the cause of death? The impact between the motorcycle and the truck. Okay, so the one in the motorcycle, malamang yung namatay. Okay, so the impact on the family. Okay, so little time for adjustment, physically and psychologically, but somehow easier to adjust to. Okay, kasi alam mo kung ano nangyari. So wala na. It's beyond, it's something that there's not really much that can be done about the situation. Namatay na siya. Parang gano'n. So as compared to an acute onset chest pain in an undiagnosed hypertensive patient and the resultant death from a cardiac arrest. So onset is rapid, pathophysiology-wise is clear to us, but to the patient, to the family, wala na yung patient, namatay na siya. To the family, hindi siya klaro din. Okay, so perception and experience-wise, there may be some difficulty for the family to accept and to adjust to the event. Okay, so more so if the symptom or the illness is rapid and very unclear. Okay, so ano ba yung mga cases na ganito? A patient who is relatively young, supposedly healthy, would suddenly collapse and be brought to the ER and declared dead on arrival. So again, little time to react, to adjust, to cope both physically and psychologically for the family. Okay, so the onset will always dictate also the impact of or how families react to a symptom or an illness. Compared also to an illness where the patient presents with chronic symptoms. For example, months of weight loss, anorexia, and hematochezia. Okay, so the illness experience will be different if the patient who refuses to seek consult for one reason or another. So, alam na niya, the symptoms are recurrent, the symptoms have been there for months, but the patient does not want to seek consult because he has an idea what it is and he fears knowing. So the patient has an experience with another relative who had the same symptoms and was found to have cancer. Okay, so the fear of the diagnosis. Okay. Or the same experience in the family member, and they spent a lot. They had to spend a lot just to have the diagnostics done, just to go through the therapy. And the patient doesn't want to go through that anymore. So there's fear of expenses that would keep them from seeking consult. Okay. So with chronic illnesses, the onset is gradual. There's time to adjust to what's happening. So the adjustment again would depend on how they perceive the symptom or the illness, their experience with the symptom of the illness or the expected outcome. Okay, so with chronic onset symptoms and chronic onset illnesses, so the symptoms come in gradually. So sometimes there's one symptom, tas nadadagdagan. There's time to adjust, but there is also that prolonged state of uncertainty and suffering, especially when they don't know what's going on, especially when they don't have a diagnosis yet. So all of this can happen in stage 1. So how else is the family affected? So for acute onset illnesses, you expect more difficulty coping, difficulty adjusting, and even crisis, especially when resources are limited. My example ko kanina, namatay na kagad yung patient. But what if, the motorcycle and truck collision ended in a, the motorcycle driver is actually alive and would require surgery, surgical intervention, or the patient will be connected to a mechanical ventilator for life, and they have to come up with the daily expenses to maintain that mechanical ventilator. Okay, so there is crisis, especially when resources are limited. Okay, so the same, for acute onset illnesses, acute onset symptoms, there is crisis when they are not able to come up with the needed diagnostics. They're not able to come up with the needed treatment. Okay, so they are in a state of anxiety. There's no time to remain in uncertainty. You want the patient to survive, then you do everything. So there's difficulty in adjusting or reacting. Ang alam mo lang, the patient has to survive, have to do everything to keep the patient alive. Okay. For gradual onset or chronic illnesses, you will see naman a different type of patient. You have a patient who is already burdened from the long-term need for resources. So pabalik-balik na sila, nakailang doktor na sila, nakailang diagnostics na sila, and nobody seems to, nobody can explain what's happening, or they cannot understand what's happening. Nobody can explain to them and help them understand what's happening. There's prolonged anxiety because they don't know, ano ba talaga nangyayari? They don't know what will happen. They don't know how long they can go through the illness experience, or sometimes there's even denial of the seriousness of the illness and possible complications. Okay, so when you see a patient who has been through chronic symptoms, or has been going through a chronic illness that has not yet been diagnosed, okay, you expect them to be overly burdened already, okay, because of the long-term need for resources, because of drained resources, from the prolonged anxiety of not knowing what's happening. Okay? So what is the role of physicians in stage 1? Actually, wala. Because this is when your symptoms start, and physicians are not yet actively involved in stage 1. However, knowing the illness experience, looking into the explanatory models of illness can be used to understand the patient and family better, why they, as I mentioned earlier, why they react the way they do. Why are they so anxious? Why are they so non-compliant? Why do they seem so untrusting? Okay, so knowing their illness perception, be it medical, psychosocial, is it because of karma? Is that their belief? Or is this witchcraft and you are the last person? Galing na sila sa mga mambabarang, mga faith healers. Sa dami na nilang pinagdaanan. Okay? So, awareness, their awareness of what's happening, their understanding, how they manage or behave in their past experiences. This is how you get to know them better. Okay? For example, why? Why do these patients, how come a majority of Filipinos did not want to receive the COVID vaccine, even though everyone was saying, expert opinion, we need to be vaccinated, we need to be protected from COVID. So bakit ang daming Pilipino na ayaw pa din? So it's because at some point in time, we had to deal with the controversial Dengvac shot. Okay, so what transpired before dictated already also how people perceive these new modern vaccines again. Okay, so ganon yung pag-iisip. So knowing their understanding, experiences, perceptions, beliefs, very important, so that you get to know them better and how to approach the next stage. Okay, so what happened to them when the illness started or when the symptoms started will give you an idea how to approach the next stage. Okay, so you can use this as reference for stage 2. Okay, so what is stage 2? So this is the time that the patient seeks you out and you start to discuss the symptom or the illness. So whether you already have the final diagnosis or you are yet to investigate stage 2, it's very important that you know the patient's past experiences. So what happened in stage 1? Okay, so take note again of what the patient and family knows, that because you have to take into consideration that their reactions, the impact of what you have to say, what you have to disclose to them, depends on past experiences, awareness, beliefs, outcomes, and also their readiness or preparedness to listen or to accept your explanation of what's happening, right, or what you are going to say. So take note as well that aside from experiences, perceptions, beliefs, you should also look into the onset of illness. So I mentioned already, acute onset, more distressing, less time to adjust. So you have to be careful in how you explain, how you help them understand the illness. Okay. For chronic symptoms or chronic illnesses, we expect that they are already burdened. They are already tired of the symptom. They have gone through so many things already. So sometimes it's easier to disclose or it's easier to talk about the illness because it provides relief. There's closure for them. But for some, again, depending on their perceptions and their understanding, it may cause further anxiety. Okay, so iba-ibang approach. So again, what happened in stage 1 will help you when you reach stage 2 or when you're finally talking to them and when you're ready to discuss your working assessment or your actual diagnosis. Okay. So, reactions and impact, diba, will also differ when we consider outcomes. So when the illness is curable, no, or can be chronic but non-debilitating, so the patient is still fully functional, then there is easier acceptance and easier progress no, to stage 3, the next stage. No, but if you are dealing with a debilitating or terminal disease, so debilitating, they have they will be disabled, no, they will need to be dependent on others for additional care, okay, or they will lose a limb, or they might not be able to go back to work, or they might even die of that illness. Then you expect them to go through, the different grief reactions. Some of them may get stuck in stage 2. No, you won't be able to move on to stage 3. And this is also now when you expect to see family collusion. So what is family collusion? Family collusion is when you mistakenly talk to the family first and you tell the family members, the illness of the patient. And then they tell you, please don't tell the patient. So let's not tell him anymore. Okay, so which defies patient autonomy. Because if the patient does not know what his illness is, then how will he be able to decide on what management he or she wants? Okay, so ganun din, masastuck na sila sa stage 2. Kasi, or mali yung magiging intervention for stage 3. Okay, so very important to know in this stage. So kanina, important to know the illness experience, to know the perceptions, the present understanding of your patients, whether or not how what type of onset they are dealing with. Here in the second stage, it's very important for you to understand again what happened to them in stage 1, so that you can do a proper disclosure. Okay, so that you can discuss the working impression with your patient and the family members, so that you can avoid family collusion, and so you can transition them to the next stage. And when I say the next stage, it's not necessarily stage 3, yung major therapeutic efforts. No, after stage 2, if you are dealing with a terminal illness, you may need to skip stage 3 and just proceed to stage 4. Okay, so adjustment to the permanency of the outcome. No more major therapeutic efforts. Okay, so again, disclosure is important in stage 2. Important to know how to proceed with helping your patients and family members move on to the next steps that they need. Okay, and disclosure, yun nga yung ating topic for their practice session. How to properly disclose diagnosis, especially if we are dealing with poor prognosis and a very grave diagnosis. Okay, so is there a way to do it? Yes. And that's what we will take up tomorrow. Okay, so what happens when you disclose your working impression or final diagnosis to the patient and family? So studies have shown that upon disclosure, people go through 2 phases, your emotional phase and your cognitive phase. So the emotional phase is actually your grief reactions, diba? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance or accommodation. Okay, so initial reactions, so they can go through denial, disbelief, anxiety. And in this state, there's not much that you expect from them cognitively, okay? Because they are in denial, because they are anxious, then you expect them, during the first phase to be confused, to not be able to understand what you're saying. Okay? So you allow them, to parang regain muna their thoughts. And you expect that the first reaction, the first impact really is disbelief, denial, and even anxiety. Okay? So there is lack of capacity to grasp initially and to understand and most especially to decide on what to do. Kaya nga rin, no, the onset of illness, if acute, diba? Kakasabi pa lang, na-aksidente si ganito, hindi sila kagad talaga makakapag-decide. Okay? Your patients at the ER, no, your family members at the ER, no, they just learned about what happened to the patient. Don't expect them initially, no? After disclosure, you don't expect them to fully understand or fully grasp what you just said. You don't expect them to be able to decide. So, pag acute onset, minsan napipilitan na lang sila without really understanding why they need to go, why they need to follow, mga ganyan. So, minsan goes both ways. No? You encounter resistance. So, ang kulit naman ng mga to, sinabi na nga, kailangan ng operahan ngayon, kailangan ng pumirma ng consent for operation, but for some reason, ba't kaya ayaw pumirma? Again, what's their experience ba before? So, takot sila kasi yung experience nila sa operations, they always turn out bad. Okay, so dito, hindi pa sila yung pa lang, the word operation pa lang, you lost them already. Naging emotional na sila. Okay, so even if you keep on pestering them, even if you keep explaining, gusto na laway mo kaka-explain, hindi pa rin talaga nila maintindihan. And that's expected during the initial stage. Okay, so after that initial disbelief, anxiety, comes emotional upheaval, anger, bargaining, makaawa, nagdadasal, and then later on depression. Ayoko na mag-isip, pagod na ako. Okay? So, during this time, this is when you are unable to communicate properly. It becomes more difficult for them to process what's happening. Okay? And usually, when they are in this stage, you are their easiest target. The doctors, the hospital, so galit sila. Lahat na lang biniblame. Wala kayong ginagawa, hindi kayo uma-action, mamatay na yung pasyente, bakit nyo kami ginaganto, all of that. It happens in this second phase. Okay, so this is a time also when, in their anger or because they don't accept what's happening or they can't accept what's happening, and then you are unable to communicate properly with them, or you don't take into consideration that particular phase that they are in. Ito yung mga aalis na lang, lilipat ng ospital, lilipat ng doktor, maghahanap ng doktor na susundin yung gusto nila, things like that. Okay, so this is the time that they go doctor shopping. They resort to just praying, sa Diyos na lang natin yung nangyayari, mga ganyan. This is that phase, right? And later on, through time, and again, depending on how they cope, depending on their own understanding, their beliefs, so iba-iba experience, iba-iba din yung how fast they go through the different phases. Okay, so the last is acceptance or accommodation. So they finally understand what's going on. They finally accept what's happening, and they can now decide better. And they have more receptivity to what's happening. Okay, and this is when it's important for you to explain again or explain more clearly what's happening. Okay, so when you encounter patients, when you disclose, when you deal with them, always remember that each patient, each family have their own illness experiences. They don't all understand the same things the same way. Okay? So it takes more you have to take more time for those who don't understand, for those who have poor illness perception. You have to take into consideration the different phases. Okay? Parang ang toxic, pero sa totoong buhay, these are all quick. And knowing that they go through these things will help you become more considerate when you see your patient. So hindi lahat yan matigas yung ulo. Hindi lahat yan hindi makaintindi. Hindi lahat yan ang hirap kausap. Okay, so there are reasons behind why they behave a certain way. There are reasons why they don't seem to understand what's going on. There are reasons why, even if you explained it already, when someone else asks about it, it seems like wala kang, sorry, in-explain ko na yan sa kanya. Bakit hindi niya pa rin maintindihan? Bakit yung pangatlong doktor, finally, siya yung nakapagpaintindi? Kasi nga, they have all these phases that they go through. Okay? So be aware also of these things. Okay? So what are your responsibilities when you're patient? So you see your patient and you are already in stage 2. Napag-usapan niyo na yung stage 1, wala ka naman doon, but you explored already. And you have a better understanding of your patient and the family members. Okay, so very important for you. Again, explore their understanding, what they already know, what they want to know, and what they should know. And the best tool here, besides your active listening skills, is your CEA, your catharsis, education, and action. Okay. Catharsis, di ba? Ano yung naiisip? Ano yung damdamin, the feelings behind it? Okay. Ano yung pinaka? What are the outcomes or the consequences that you are thinking of right now, or what you fear most right now? Okay. What do you think is happening right now? Okay. So assess the likely effect or impact of the illness based on what you discovered sa kanilang illness experiences, sa kanilang understanding of what's happening. Okay, so how would they likely react? Mukha bang they will go through the grief reactions quickly? Or mukhang I have to choose my words and I have to explain a little slower. I have to use, better examples for them to understand, because they might react differently because they seem to be based on what I gathered from what their experiences in stage 1. So assess capabilities to deal with stress. Okay, so sa kwento nila, ngayon lang po ba nangyari yan? Pabalik-balik na kami dito. Okay, so mukhang chronic symptom, mukhang yung reactions na ng family member pagod na, galit na, sawa na. Okay, so how do I explain now? How do I approach now my disclosure? Okay, so proper disclosure, very important in stage 2, because it will dictate, as I mentioned earlier, how they will proceed, either to stage 3, if there are still therapeutic efforts, management interventions for this patient, or if you need to transition them to stage 4, no more active medical interventions. So they just have to learn to take care of the patient. They have to learn to deal with the disease. Okay, because sometimes, if you disclose, your disclosure is not proper. You don't do a proper disclosure. Yung fear nila, will prevent them or hinder them from accepting. So, kala nila, so dini-investigate pa lang natin. So, our differentials at this time is between TB and cancer. Eh, narinig na nila yung cancer. Kasi experience pala nila with cancer is lahat ng may cancer mamamatay. Okay, pero nawala yung fact na baka TB lang pala ito. Okay, so for the patient and the family members, what's the point of doing the workup? I know that I will die. Okay, so these things, they will happen if you don't disclose properly. Okay, and also family collusion, diba? Di ka nag-disclose sa tamang tao. So okay lang kung yung patient hindi naman kasi conscious. So talagang wala kang choice, but to explain to the family. But later on, when the patient awakens, is it right to just listen to the family members and not tell the patient what's really going on? Okay, so again, explore. Bakit nga ba? Ba't ayaw niyo bang sabihin? Kasi baka mawalan ng pag-asa. Lagi namang ganun. Okay, so you can always say, and you will learn that also tomorrow. can we just talk about it first? And maybe, no? Most of the time, di ba, takot na takot tayo mag-disclose or feeling natin, hindi natin, hindi maintindihan ng patient, no? But sometimes, no, after catharsis, no, when you allow them to ventilate, when you ask about their illness understanding, they will actually discover that they do know, and you're just there to confirm what they already know. So again, iba-ibang sitwasyon, iba-ibang tao, iba-ibang experience, no? Iba-iba din yung magiging reaction, no, to your disclosure. But what should be the same in all of those, no, is you, the doctor, dealing with them, communicating with them, understanding where they're coming from before you give, your management plans, before you dictate what you want, your plans, what you want to happen. Right? So your responsibilities also in stage 2, is to, of course, interpret findings accurately. So hindi naman sa lahat ng panahon, we have a clear idea, we have a clear diagnosis, but at least be competent enough to know what might be going on. And again, how you explain the differentials. You shouldn't be too, pathophysical. You don't approach it in a pathophysiologic way. You explain it in a way that, you always hear that, diba? You should explain it in a way that your patient understands what you're saying. And for you to know how they will understand what you're saying is to get to know them, get to know their experience. Okay, so disclose properly with empathy and compassion. Offer advice and encouragement while maintaining realistic goals and hope. So like I said, if they should be transitioned to stage 4, you don't say, let's try stage 3, baka sakali. So if you really know that the patient has poor prognosis, has really, there's no benefit in trying any treatment plans, then you should be able to help that patient and the family transition to just adjusting to the outcome of the disease. Should be able to anticipate problems and help them cope and adapt to what's happening. So again, based on what you see, or how they react. Okay. And you will be able to see their reaction, how they cope, how they're adapting when you do your family meeting, when you do your family CEA. So this is how you get to know their thoughts, their feelings about what's happening, their fears, their expected outcomes, and how you can help them adjust to what's happening. Okay, whether it be stage 3, something that they can still do to help cure the patient or at least help stabilize the patient, or if they need to just adjust already to the outcome. Either the patient is terminally ill, so the outcome is death, or the patient will be disabled and would require all these additional support. Okay, so again, different scenarios, different illnesses, different explanations, but the approach should still be the same. Okay, so proper disclosure, getting to know their illness understanding, conducting family meetings and family CEAs as necessary, especially if your patient requires more support from the family. Okay. So because you are there not to disclose, you expect some form of denial or inability to accept reality initially. But later on, like I said, if you allow them to just go through the grief reactions, and again, that would be dependent on their previous experiences. If it's the first time, baka naman mas mabilis, baka naman mas madali. Okay, so you should be able to identify also if the patient or the family members would require additional help So mukhang mahihirapan siya to accept maybe this patient will benefit from referral to a psychologist just to help them adapt or help them accept what's happening. Okay, but important, no? As soon as you do your disclosure, to offer plans that are realistic, no? And also plans that are compatible, no, with the capabilities and the prognosis of the patient. Sometimes stage 3 is possible, there is cure, but no, your patient, the family members, no, they have financial constraints or they have cultural beliefs, no, that would hinder again, no, the necessary management. For example, you have a patient who has blood dyscrasia. Okay, so meron siyang hematologic disease and would require recurrent blood transfusions. But this patient is a Jehovah's Witness. So pipilit mo ba yung stage 3? Mamatay ka pag hindi ka nagpa-transfuse. Or you just support them and, make them aware of the consequences, make them aware of the possible outcomes, and just prepare them. If this happens, if we don't, receive that blood transfusion, if the other medications that we can try, will not really help much, then these are the expected symptoms. And this is what you can do. Okay, so, diba? Ano nga ba mangyayari sa kanya kung hindi siya mag-transfuse? So definitely, that patient will deteriorate eventually. They will experience a lot of these. Initially, siguro nga, pag sobrang bababa na, she will experience initially dizziness lang. She'll have episodes of loss of consciousness. Anong pang plans ng family or what can they do about when these things happen? It's eventually, mau-hospital. Okay, tapos they will be given again all these decisions that they need to make with regards to management, on how to proceed with management. Is that still what they want? Should they ask already for the patient's preferences with regards to life-sustaining interventions? Okay, so pag na-hospital ka na, tapos parang nanghihina ka na masyado, ano ba yung mga gusto mo pa at ayaw mo nang gawin? Okay, so definitely transfusion is out of the question. Okay, so if you have difficulty of breathing, will you still want to be hooked to a mechanical ventilator? All these things, we have to help them decide on, plan for, because they will happen. Right? But, hindi naman lahat ganun kahirap, no? You have cases, like I said, if the outcome is good, you expect cure, then it's easy to proceed to the next stage, which is major therapeutic efforts. Okay, so this stage is actually the best part of being a doctor, especially if you're able to cure or to reverse the medical problem or to reverse the illness altogether. Okay, so it's the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. Okay, so if the expected outcome is good, then it's very rewarding. If the patient and family can initiate and sustain the management that you are offering, then very good. If cure is achievable, then very good. But there will be times when baka the cure, we're going to try and cure, but we don't know if it will actually reverse the illness completely, or will it only stabilize the patient? So these things you have to be aware of. Okay. So always keep in mind that you have to maintain realistic goals and hopes. Okay, so you have all those who will be in stage 3, all those who are offering your interventions should be able to sustain. So minsan kasi initiate lang pero hindi pala masustain. So for example, your patient unfortunately develops chronic kidney disease. Okay? So, ano bang treatment nun? Wala, di ba? Treatment is actually kidney transplant. So, meron ba siyang nakatagong 2 to 3 million? Kung meron, go. Kung wala, magkano kaya ang meron sila? Will they be able to sustain chronic hemodialysis? Okay, so may PhilHealth naman. And in PhilHealth, renewable naman yan every year. Okay, so libre yung dialysis. But the medications that patient will need prior to each dialysis, the diagnostics that they have to go through, realistically, can they sustain that? So these things, you have to take into consideration again. Okay, so in stage 3, you are very active. You have a very active role as physicians, and you have to deal with a lot of things. Okay, the wishes of the patient, the family, again, based on realistic goals, based on their capacity. You should be able to coordinate all aspects of therapy. If they need specialist intervention, you need to refer them to other subspecialties, okay, the paramedical support that they would need. Okay, and you should be able to help them deal with problems related to critical issues when discussing therapeutic plans. Okay, so what are these critical issues in choosing the therapeutic plan? Okay, so of course, you have to take into consideration the psychological state and preparedness of the patient and the family. Okay, what is the impact of the interventions that you have planned emotionally and cognitively? Again, you have to talk about emotionally critical misperceptions when it comes to therapeutics. You have to deal with that also. We have to look into signs of non-adherence or non-compliance or inability actually to sustain the required management. You have to take into consideration the patient and family's belief system and trust in the therapeutic modality. Okay, so susunod kaya ito? Do they have enough trust? Now, if I refer this patient to a different hospital that can, better accommodate their needs, would they have the same trust in this facility as they have with me? Things like that. Okay. The responsibility of care. Okay, so this should be made clear early in the treatment plan. So realistic roles. This patient requires 24/7 caregiver support during the first few months of treatment. So will they be able to get a paid caregiver? Will the caregiver be one of the family members? Is this family member capable of taking care of the patient's needs? Or is that family member willing? Kasi minsan sasabihin lang, Filipino culture, ikaw yung bunso, ikaw yung walang asawa, ikaw yung babae, all those things, biglang ikaw na yung caregiver ng pasyente. So, these have to be discussed as well. Okay? Duties and responsibilities of the patient. If you really want to be well, if you really want to be cured, if you really want to, prevent complications, you have to, comply to these. Okay, and also the responsibilities of the family members. Okay, so meron ba diyang siya yung designated decision maker or magiging surrogate decision maker of the patient when the time comes and the patient cannot give his or her consent? Payag ba siya? Okay, so madalas the spouse, not pala madalas. Legally, it's the spouse, but madalas, it's the financiers, who are also the decision makers. Okay, so yung gumagastos. So sino nga ba itong mga financiers? They should be identified. Their willingness to sustain the needs of the patient should be established. Okay, and again, the goals of care. What is the expected outcome? Okay, what are your expectations? Are we really looking at cure? And then later on, the patient will be 100% and can return to full functionality? Or do we expect that through time, we can stabilize the patient, but later on, we will expect deterioration. We will expect, all these things. Okay, so these are best discussed again in family meetings. Okay. Take into consideration cost of therapy. Again, no, it should be at a reasonable level based on the patient and family's economic status, and also no, the economic impact of the intervention. Okay, so it's easy to initiate, but can they sustain? Sometimes you have to take those into consideration. Okay, sometimes they have funds for the first chemotherapy, no, but they will have difficulty coming up with the next round of chemotherapy. Okay, and it's important to finish the cycles. Otherwise, parang wala rin. Hindi mo matatapos yung treatment. Okay, so what if they are in that situation? Or akala nila kaya nila, but after the first, mukhang hindi na. No? Is it advisable to sell all their belongings just for that one intervention? Tapos later on, wala namang pang sustain. Okay, so they do have 3 million for the kidney transplant, no, but they don't have money anymore for those medications that would keep the body from rejecting the kidney. So may point bang inubos nila yung 3 million sa transplant? So things like that should be taken into consideration. Now, the cost, the capacity to initiate, to sustain, okay, and to, if other complications are there, so it could be discussed. When we talk about these critical issues, no, it's not always challenging them, not and then dissuading them. It's really looking into the capacity talaga. Okay, so initially ayaw nung napiling caregiver, but if they understand their role, if they understand the importance of their cooperation, maybe they will later on help out. Okay, so other issues, lifestyle and cultural characteristics of the family. So I mentioned Jehovah's Witness already kanina. So ito, is it, will the intervention require them to go to forget their culture, their beliefs? Okay. And of course, look into the effects of hospitalization, any planned surgery, and other therapeutic methods. Again, on the emotional impact on the patient, the family, if it will become too financially stressful for the patient and the family. Will it be too burdensome? Will you be defying yung ethical principle of justice? Okay, so is it right to just divert all their finances to a patient whose prognosis is not that good? Things like that. You have to discuss with your patients and your families. So like I said, very curable disease, very simple illness, bilis. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 4 is the patient is well. Okay, but some instances, with some illnesses, there are so many things that you have to take into consideration. There are so many things that you have to help the family with. Okay, so you have to be aware of these things that they need to know about, they need to understand, and your role in explaining these things. Okay, so your role in stage 3, of course, again, to establish understanding. What are we doing here? What are our goals? What are the expected outcomes? What is the treatment plan altogether? Okay, when you offer your options, they should be effective at a cost that they can afford and acceptable to their belief system. It should remain open and work in harmony with the patient and the family. So as much as it's sometimes it's tedious, but that's your role, because you cannot proceed with the treatment if they have poor understanding, if they have wrong expectations, diba? Magkakaproblema. Okay? Baka they're expecting cure, yung pala hindi. Hindi pala siya curative. O baka naman they're expecting the worst, yung pala curable naman pala. So these things have to be settled. Right? Deal with the multiple variables. Okay, so all factors when planning. who are the decision makers. So sometimes, no, you're talking to the patient, you're wondering why this patient cannot make up his mind. Yung pala, like I said, ang financier ay yung kapatid abroad. And if you don't explain to that kapatid abroad, you can't get his consent, no, to proceed. No, that he will. You can't get him to pay for everything, and the patient cannot decide to learn. Okay, so sometimes you need that extra effort to talk also to this decision maker or this financier who um, plays a big role, no, in the decision making when it comes to treatment options. Okay, so coordinate all aspects of therapy. Okay, so how do you know what best options the patient has? Okay, then you talk to the experts, you talk to the specialists, and you discuss with them about what's the best option for this patient. Okay, if we proceed with this, but this patient is diabetic, will it be harmful or will it help his diabetes? Things like that. Okay, so learn to collaborate, with other specialties. Learn to work as a team, taking care of one patient. So view the patient and family as therapeutic allies, not merely as recipients of care. So you don't just say, for chemotherapy, wala ka ng pake. No explanation, no looking into their capacity to actually proceed with the chemotherapy. You don't end there. You have to help them understand. You have to help them weigh the pros and cons. Okay. Is that my role? Yes, because you're their doctor. Okay. But if that's not your role, then refer to who can explain or who can better explain. Okay. So explore reactions to therapy. So again, elicit emotionally critical misperceptions about the treatment. So again, expectations, what they think will come out of it, what are their fears. Okay, so stage 4 is the adjustment to outcome. Okay, so this is the role, the return from role of being sick to either full recovery, if you're looking at curative illnesses, or some form of recovery, or the need to adapt to the outcome. Okay, so when your outcome is non-fatal, your illness is non-fatal, possibly fatal or fatal, iba-iba din yung how you can help the family and the patient deal with these outcomes. Okay, if it's an acute onset illness but with complete resolution, so very easy for them to adjust. Once they're cured, okay na. Okay, but if you're dealing with a disease that may be chronic and they are unable, there's the possibility that they will not be able to sustain the patient's needs, how do we deal with that? If the outcome is disability, how do we deal with that? If you have an illness that can relapse, you have an illness that can have episodes of exacerbations, you expect this patient to become symptomatic every now and then. How do you deal with that? Okay, and this is when the psychosocial typology of illness becomes useful. Okay, so how do you deal with these patients who are dealing with chronic illness? Okay. So we know, most illnesses, we know the disease trajectory. So sabi natin si family illness trajectory, the normal course that families and patients go through when they are faced with illness. Okay. And diseases have the same trajectory. So when we say trajectory, we can predict or we have an idea how diseases would end or the outcome of these diseases. Okay, so when you are dealing with sudden death, like sudden MI or vehicular accident, serious vehicular accident, you have a highly functional patient, and as soon as this illness occurs, then you expect sudden death. But so fully functional patient, nag-MI, death. Okay. Patients who are dealing with terminal illness, like cancer, you have a fully functional patient, that through time, as you are unable to control the cancer, you expect deterioration through time until the patient's death. You have patients with organ failure, end organ failure, so COPD, congestive heart failure, liver disease, CKD. Okay, so you have a not fully functional patient anymore, and you expect that there are periods when the patient will have exacerbations. Okay, and through time, as we see more exacerbations of the illnesses of the illness, then you observe decline through time until the patient eventually dies. Okay? Frailty we see in elderly patients. Okay, so you have much lower functionality as they age, as there is more frailty. Okay, and you expect decreasing functionality through time. So when you have decreasing functionality, you expect more dependence on others for their care. You expect more support or required support from family. Okay, so you see complete deterioration until the patient's death. So we have an idea. We know how the outcomes of illnesses. And it's very important for us to guide our patients and the families throughout that illness experience. So when you are dealing with a chronic illness, and you expect prolonged fear, prolonged anxiety, not knowing how to take care of the patient will eventually cause illness in other family members. You expect caregiver burden. Okay, so how? How do you help them? First and foremost, help them understand the illness. Help them develop a way to manage the patient's illness. Be it an illness that we expect later on. It's a terminal illness and we expect death. Pero kailan ba yung death na yan? So all throughout, how do we support them? Okay, so we know that a patient with a relapsing illness, or a patient who may be in and out of the hospital because of the illness, that would cause, again, additional burden for families. How do you support them, or how do you help them adjust and cope with that? Okay? How do you know if they understand what's going on? Or how do you get to know their fears about what can happen? Okay? Then you encourage ventilation of feelings. Okay? You allow them to share. Again, from that initial illness, exploring the onset of illness. Ito naman, exploring expectations and outcomes. Okay, so again, in this stage, very important to do individual CEA, allow ventilation, catharsis, and even family CEA. So again, the importance of holding family meetings so that you get to know their capacity to take care of the patient. You get to explain to them what they need to do, what they need to know, or how they will be able to cope and adapt to the patient's illness. Okay, so you can assess for caregiver burden and help them cope and adapt to the illness. Okay, so chronic lang yon. If you're dealing with terminal illness, then expect that it's highly emotional, it's potentially devastating, and knowing that the patient can die anytime. It's the single most difficult time of their entire illness experience. Okay. So if the family is functional, then you expect that they will be able to pull together. Even with chronic illness, even if the patient has an illness that's relapsing, you expect that they can support each other. But if there is family discord, if there are problems within the family system, if they don't have good relationships, then you expect these things, so the chronic illness and the terminal illness, to be more difficult for them to deal with. It will be difficult for the patient. It will be difficult to the family members taking care of the patient. It will be difficult for the entire family. So how do you help them? Okay. So the first thing to know is to identify if there is dysfunction, to clarify kung ano yung mga nakikitang problems within the family. Okay, and once identified, learn to direct them to the appropriate intervention. So they need family therapy, sige. If they need individual counseling, they need psychiatric help, just so they can cope better, then sige. You have to refer them appropriately. Okay? So your role as physicians when your patient is in stage 4, no, initially, especially for patients no, who deal no, with acute illnesses. Okay, so you have to help them deal with the immediate effects of trauma. Okay, so these are your patients who experience sudden death, not the patient, the family, sorry. Okay, so you have a patient who was brought to the ER, didn't come out alive, so very quick, stage 1 to stage 4. Okay, so how can the family deal with stage 4? Or very acute also, na aksidente, tapos naging disabled because of that accident. So stage 1 to stage 4. How do they cope with what happened? You have a fully functional patient that is suddenly fully dependent on others for their care. Okay. Explore their level of understanding. Okay. Alleviate anxiety by providing needed psychological support and helping them understand what's going on. Okay. Giving them reassurance. And when we say reassurance, it's not always that things will be better. So reassurance means, that they can do it, or that they did everything that they could have done. Things like that, just to give them that extra push within their capacity, within the capabilities, and within, what's appropriate. Okay. So your role is to assist the patient and family in relating to the illness and the healthcare system. Okay, so what are their options? Okay, what do they need to do? Okay, you should aid the patient and family in efficient and functional readjustment. So previously, ganito yung family situation nila. But now that the patient is ill, the outcome is like this, how? How do they proceed? Provide quality of care. Okay. Help the patient and the family achieve the best return to functional status. Okay. For terminally ill or very chronically and disabled patients, or those who require additional, or those who will be fully dependent on others for their care, is home care a better option for them? Okay, so how do you help them transition from being fully functional, going through the illness experience and dealing with the chronic illness, dealing with the outcome of the illness? That's what we will take up next week. So psychosocial typology of illness will help you support the patient and the family dealing with a chronic disease. Okay. So part of stage 4, if your patient, that your patient is terminally ill, that your patient will die, then you can help prepare them for death. Okay, so initiate early bereavement is what we call. Okay, and provide bereavement care. Can you do that? Yeah, if you take time to learn. But if you can't do it, then know that there are services that can help you with that. So you can refer your patient to palliative care. Okay, so other services that can help the family, even the patient, deal with the eventual death. Okay, so as doctors, expect that we cannot always cure people. So we can only cure sometimes. We can treat often. But one thing that should always be there is the ability to provide comfort, okay, to support our patients and families, to help them understand what's going on. Okay? So, mahirap pa maging doktor? Di naman. Marami lang talagang kailangan din matutunan. So, being aware of these things, that these things exist, will make you a better doctor, actually. Okay. So, these are my references. I uploaded Leopando et al., the excerpt there on impact of illness. And this, I also uploaded na the mechanics for your group critique on Lorenzo's oil and the guide questions that you have to answer. Okay? Questions? Sorry, lumampas pala ako ng 2 oras.